Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. My friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly that before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China, he took silk and gunpowder. From India, he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast, he took barrels of oil untold, raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So, my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes, slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman on fire water. Tricks and lies, he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven, black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak. He needed you, black man, so he commissioned Sir John Hawkins to commit the world's most grievous sin, to take a man who's born to be free and bring him down to slavery, to sell a man as merchandise. On his body put a price. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.
Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to another episode of the LANCESCURV Show with Brother Zamal Tamaray. You know when he comes on that he has a lot to say that just blows our minds, and I have to say that I respect his research. I'm going to keep my introduction short. The title of the show is When Sheroes Ruled the World, and it's right on point these days because in this European-dominated society, our sisters don't get enough acknowledgement, and the history is not even told. It's minimized. When you look in the Bible, you see nothing but men. You don't see the women glorified as they should be. So, Brother Zamal, I'm so glad that you're here, brother. I'm going to jump right into it with you, and I'm going to let you do your thing. We got a full house right now. It's going to get even more filled up. But how are you doing today, brother?
I hope so. I'm doing really good. Very well. Peace to the GBF. And Zamal got the title, you got the title wrong, brother. It's When Sheroes Ruled the World.
Yes, yes, that's what I said.
Sheroes.
Yes.
Oh, he said, okay,
yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, you
probably a Jamaican accent, right?
There you go. Dropping one word and moving it around, right?
That's okay, no biggie. Yeah, When Sheroes Ruled the World.
Yes.
When I talk to people about this topic, women, I haven't talked to a lot of guys about it, but when I talk to women about it, I really want to tell them what I know about this research. And most women, no matter, their age or their race, when I start talking about this topic, they do not want our conversation to end. Mm-hmm. And that information is what I want to disclose to you all today, information that you've never received. Most of you, it's not taught it's not a general topic in school, in this patriarchal type system that we have. Your young boys, if you have children, they need to know this information. If you have young girls, they also need to know this information. But what I decided to do with my my talks, I decided to shorten my videos because I noticed some videos are really long, and that's great. I'm the type of guy I'll listen to a long video, but I'll do it over time, in stages. And yes. I think most people will probably do that because of time constraints.
Yes.
But I want to do that because I want to make sure that people get all of the information, and also that there's some continuity with
yes.
regard to the intellectual processes, So I don't want there to be any gaps. This information is so important, not because I'm putting it out, but because you've never been told this before. Mm-hmm. You can find this in, different types of books that I would say that are not written for like mass circulation.
Right.
Or, you'll find them in rare books, this information, if you, dig and, do the, roll your sleeves up and put the time and energy into it and do your due diligence that way. But it's not something that's really discussed. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's people really need to know, and people need to know this from an early age, because it could really, help our society in terms of the negative orientation that we have towards, male superiority and male supremacy, mm-hmm. which is what this whole society is based on. So, when I write about things or talk about things, these are the things. A lot of those topics are books that I would like to see that in a book. Like if I was a kid, I'd take myself back to my childhood, and I say to myself, if I was a child growing up in this matrix, this is the type of book that I would like to read.
Right.
Well, these are the types of stories that I would like to know about. And for you all out there that have children that are not in school, that are not being quote unquote educated in this educational system, then it's kind of like a blessing, because this information they won't get in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So use this information, check my sources, and then utilize it to educate your children. You can also, I did that recording on Nazi Germany and the Polarity War. I did that not so much to talk about Germany per se, and I found a lot of people like that topic, my sister included. I did that topic because I wanted to do a case study on mass manipulation, on the manipulation of human consciousness in general. And that was a case study because that's happening today. So it's as relevant then as it is now. So some people might ask, why would you want to write about that? Well, because, history is a continuum. History is like everything is connected. It's not just a series of disconnected random events. It's actually just a thread of events that are linked, inextricably linked one to the other. So that's the reason I wrote about that. And I also wanted to bring out the exopolitical aspect or narrative that's never talked about. And of course, that's only one narrative. There's so many other narratives you can discuss with respect to Hitler or Nazi Germany. But that, so that's the reason I wrote it. So I got a lot of good comments about that, and I really I'm glad that people enjoy my content. But going forward, I would like to shorten my videos to maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at the max. Again, because I want people to hear the information that I have to impart. So everybody knows, well, not everybody knows me, but I'm pretty new on this platform, Zamal Tamaray. And for those who haven't met me, I'll give you a brief introduction. But I want to, with this topic, I would like to provide information or evidence, irrefutable evidence, that women were in fact on this planet before the advent of a man. I'll say that again. Women were on this planet before men even existed. And so what I'll do is start with an introduction about myself and I'll cover some relevant words and some definitions related to this topic. But right now we want to talk about the matriarchy. And to talk about the matriarchy, I'd like to cover basically three points. The first point would be that the world of yesterday was a feminine world order, where women actually reproduced on their own. I know that sounds outlandish, but I'll get into the research shortly. Maybe not in this session, but in succeeding sessions. Point number two, I want to disclose exactly how women lost their powers to men. And point number three will be the end of the series. I'll just talk about my motivations for writing or actually coming up with this topic or even discussing this topic in the first place. So back to my introduction. Personal background. All my life, I've been on a truth-seeking journey. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for when I was a child, but I soon learned that, my attraction to books and my attraction to learning in general was magnetic, obsessive even. And I'd spend countless hours in bookstores and, so many hours in libraries as a child. And I didn't know at the time what it was, but something was seeded in my DNA, like an invisible driver, providing, I guess, a motive force that compelled me to unravel and make sense of how this world really works. So I had this gnawing sense within me as a child that everything was not the way it seemed. So it wasn't until much later that I learned, among many other things in my studies under Baba Yanun, aka Dr. Malachi Z. York, one very amazing thing. And that was that women could, in fact, self-reproduce without a man. And not only could they do this, not only could they do it past tense, but they possess that ability today, the same latent ability. So when I first heard about this, I knew I had to research this in greater depth because I'd never been taught this in school. So, you know, the information that I'm now sharing is a product of that research. So I also ran across this information in a book that wasn't even related to this topic. This book was a book that talked about banking systems of all things, banking systems in antiquity. And as you know, that's one of my, you know, favorite topics of study, how the banking system works. And so I was reading that book. It dealt with one system in particular, and that system was a matriarchal or female-based type of society, which I'll cover later on. And the sources, you know, I'll provide those as I go along and also at the end of this series because I want you guys to get all of the information. It's a lot of information, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's exhaustive by any means, but it's a lot of information to take in. So, you know, this makes perfect sense because people will naturally want to know, you know, where did you get that information? Where did, you know, this way you can examine all the information for yourself in this age of no more secrets and informational transparency. So back to Dr. York. Now, given that I had learned this as a student under York, I'll naturally cite some relevant books written by him as references, as well as references from other authors. So what I want to do now is I want to make a bold statement to the effect that I can prove that females existed on Earth before men, and I have to give you, that being said, I just have to say, in order to convey the magnitude of his contribution to our struggle as an unsung activist, teacher, humanitarian, author, mystic, linguist, serial entrepreneur, avatar, and an unrivaled and consistent purveyor of facts. You know, he's known by a variety of different names. Of course, you know him as Dr. Malachi Z. York. Some know him as Amanumi Rakatath. Then he also has the title The Good Doctor because of the information that he puts out, healing information. They call him the man of this day and time, the reformer, the man of the hour, referring to the period from 1970 to 2030. Al-Qadir, the Green One, Atun Ray, Al-Kupt, many other names, Baba Yanun, Panabab Yanun, Baba Yananin. So there's so many names. Rabboni Yeshua Bar Al-Hadi, that was in the school of what he called Hebrewism, or Imam Isa. Also Asayid al-Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. In the school of Islam, he had those titles. In the school of Christianity, all these schools are schools that he taught. Christianity / I'll say Egyptology, he referred to himself as Malachi or Reverend Malachi Z. York in those particular schools. In the school of the Native American Yamasee Indians, he was referred to as Chief Thunderbird Black Eagle. So I'll just refer to him as Yanun throughout the remainder of this talk, just for simplicity's sake. So some of the books he wrote, or he's written, include, there's so many, but Jesus Found in Egypt is one. I think I mentioned that in my previous talk on Christianity and sun worship. The Degree of Christism, The Degree of Mohammedism. He wrote Man from Planet Risk. He wrote Melanite Children, Right Knowledge. He wrote a book called St. Paul, Disciple or Deceiver. You know how a lot of these pastors are always talking about Paul? It's always Paul. Paul this, Paul that. And what they're basically doing is pushing a Paulite doctrine. Has nothing to do with Christianity if you read and compare Christianity to the words of Paul, just as an example. Another book he wrote was The Real Messiah. He wrote The Cycles of Life and Death. He wrote Is There Life After Death? He wrote Birth of Earth and the Matrix. He wrote The Secret of Tones and the Mafkuzat. He wrote Tones, Frequencies, and Vibrations. The Physical Ethers. He wrote The Lotus of Life, Part 1, which deals with the sacred feminine. He wrote The Spiritual You After the Physical You Dies. Then there's another one, Intelligent Design, Divine Design, or Plot of Aliens. He wrote The Akasha Records, 37 Genes of the Mitochondrial DNA, The Religion of Islam Unmasked, Is God Male or Female, Atlantis, and so many more books. So he's basically covered all these subjects ranging from the historical, the anthropological, the biological, the mathematical, the spiritual, the geographical, geological, astronomical, astrological, the scientific, and on and on. So many decades ago, before cloning and genetic engineering was a part of public awareness, he spoke about genetic experiments being conducted by extraterrestrials in ancient times. And of course, the brother was laughed at. He was ridiculed by many. But when the neuroscientists later admitted to their experiments decades later, all the laughter stopped. You know how you guys are playing musical chairs? You know how that game works? And you're going around and around the chairs, and then the music stops? Well, that's what happened. The music stopped. And when the music stopped, all the naysayers were, I guess you could say they were SOL. So this individual appeared wrapped in an aura of mystery, and he's always befuddled. He's befuddled the most learned amongst us. Like in 1970, for example, he set up a Q&A forum. This question and answer forum was open to all. And for the past 49 years, the public has had an opportunity to question him about anything above and beneath the sun. So needless to say, he's always answered every single question, and always in great detail. Sometimes a single question can turn out to be a book or multiple books. In the 1990s, he was honored by the Guinness Book of World Records, and he received distinction for writing the most number of books written by a single individual. He's also fluent in 19 different languages. He's fluent in many dialects as well as the classical Arabic, Galilean, and the Semitic languages. And he's a walking human encyclopedia, an encyclopedia of seemingly inexhaustible wisdom. And so as a matter of fact, from his prison cell, which is where he is right now, he's still producing some of the most profound works to elevate his people. And he says, and I quote from one of his books, I have devoted my visit to this planet to the resurrection of the mentally dead, which I affectionately refer to as mummies. And that definitely typifies the black diaspora right now. So he actually became what you would call public enemy number one, owing to his extraordinary grasp of the scriptures. See, what he did was he single-handedly and meticulously dissected Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And he did it to such a point that he struck fear in the hearts of many Christian ministers and Muslim imams. So he's also written a series of extremely detailed books, magazines, newspapers, pamphlets, and actually volumes of information, many exceeding 1,000 pages. One book in particular comes to mind, and that book was 360 Questions to Ask a Sunni Muslim. The 360 Questions to Ask a Sunni Muslim literally stopped the growth at one time of Islam as the fastest growing religion, prompting several unsuccessful assassination attempts against him. As a matter of fact, he built the largest independent Islamic organization in the world only to dismantle that and pivot to an entirely different doctrine, Hebrewism, from 1991 to 1993, roughly. And when people were involved in Islam, a lot of men wanted their polygamy, which there's nothing wrong with polygamy if it's done in the right manner and if it's done for the right purposes, for the perpetuation of the species, but not for a sex thing. A lot of people were pissed off that he left Islam. A lot of people were mad. A lot of people wanted to be religious. But he always said, I came giving you what you wanted so that you could learn to accept what I really have to give. Why? Because his true purpose was to fully immerse us in religion so we could see the fallacies and the inconsistencies and the imperfections and the outright lies. So his job was not just to propagate religion, but to dismantle it. And he did that by continually raising our level of consciousness. And he always said one thing that stuck with me. He said that the first step to transformation from mortality to immortality was to put aside mortal information, to eliminate Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And he was right. And that reminds me now, there is a book that was written by another student of Baba Yanun. Her name is Naisutat Nasaktat. The name of the book is The Gospel of the Holy Mother Mary of Malachi. And those books are available now in various bookstores. In this book, he reveals to his mother exactly why, when he was a small child, he would be missing for up to 3 days at a time, because he was being abducted and groomed for great future work. There are also stories by family members confirming his strange abilities to speak languages that he never learned. So that book is part biography, dealing with the life of the mother of Baba Yanun, as well as a part Q&A with answers to more questions being provided by Yanun. And in that book, the book that I mentioned, named The Gospel of the Holy Mother Mary of Malachi, in that book he mentions how it took him 30 years of writing books and answering questions in order to get past Jesus, God, Muhammad, the Bible, the Quran, and religion in general, just to give us what he really came to give. So from the 1970s, he wrote a series of very profound books, which really amounted to what I call mental baby food. And then after a long period of grooming, he weaned us off the baby food and then started giving us solid food in the form, well, I wasn't around at the time, but to the people that were around, he started feeding the students solid food in the form of what you will call a series of books. And these books are called Actual Facts. And these books are available now. And these Actual Facts are being released as we speak. So I'm even told that the total list of Actual Facts amounts to about 350 works alone. So among his other accomplishments, he totally immersed his students, and I am privileged to be one, in all of the teachings of the Abrahamic religions and the unsavory origins of Christianity, Judaism, Islam. He referred to three different organizational phases. He had three different organizational phases. He refers to those as schools. The School of Islam, the School of Hebrewism, the School of Christianity, the School of Egyptology, the School of Sumerian Studies, the School of Freemasonry, etc. So he's also transcribed, transliterated, and translated the following books. The Book of Revelations from the Galilean Arabic and the Ancient Greek. The books of the Old Testament, the Torah and the Psalms, from the Ancient Aramic, Hebrew, to English. The Holy Quran, from the Syriac Arabic to English. Now, everybody knows what a transcription is. A transcription is basically when you write a language exactly as it is. It doesn't mean that you'll be able to understand it, but you're writing the language exactly as it is, or as it looks. Transliteration is when you write the words the way they sound. And everybody knows what a translation is. When you provide the meanings of foreign words, that's a translation. So he transcribed, transliterated, and translated from those various languages I mentioned. So he's credited along with Farrakhan. A lot of people don't know this. He's credited along with Minister Farrakhan for the golden age of hip hop, or what they call the golden age of hip hop. And that was when hip hop actually had a message before it was hijacked or commandeered by our enemies and evolved into its contemporary form as a destructive, lyrical Frankenstein's creation called gangster rap, or even worse, the name is trap music, is what they call it. He's also responsible for a lot of the beautiful music people have listened to, their parents have grown up on. The music that we received in the 70s and the 80s, everybody's heard of Wake Up Everybody by Harold Melvin, right? Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead. Love Train by the OJs. He produced those types of records. And where do you think Earth, Wind, and Fire got their idea of the mothership from? He was also in touch with them. So over the years, I've witnessed his knack for making predictions well in advance of the event's actual occurrence. For example, when I first ran across one of his books in the 1980s, he boldly outlined how the Twin Towers of New York would be destroyed and have a direct connection to the Arab world, or an association to the Arab world. So when the Twin Towers came down in 2001, long after this prediction, we were already mentally prepared for it, or many people were mentally prepared for it. People that were grounded in the information were prepared for it. The name of that book was called Leviathan 666. That book became a national bestseller, and there have been a number of subsequent editions. And if I remember correctly, the copy that I had was from between 1979 to 1989. And in the 1979 edition, there were a number of predictions, all of which have come to pass. Some of these predictions included events such as the fall of America, as we're now witnessing, the crushing of the Arab world, which is ongoing, ATMs in the cashless society, as well as the destruction of the Twin Towers called 911, which we just mentioned. So many people thought he was crazy when he said that we once had the ability to regenerate our limbs. But sure enough, many years later, the neuroscientists were reporting the same ability to do so, but artificially. So they called him a space cadet when he explained to us that Mars had life and was once inhabited. But years later, the establishment scientists proved that Mars does have water and microbes in that water, not to mention pyramids and other artificial structures. He's always maintained that one of the beings that speaks through him, Yanun, is from the planet Risk, which is a part of a tri-solar system with 3 suns instead of just one. Another ridiculous sounding statement too, at first glance. But decades later after that statement, the establishment scientists quietly admitted that such a place actually exists. So this bold assertion was made in another best-selling classic he wrote called Man from Planet Risk. In Man from Planet Risk, he said that one of the beings that speaks through him is from a 3-sun galaxy, a triple sun galaxy. That includes his home planet called Planet Risk. He further spoke on a planet or a mothership called Nibiru. And Nibiru orbits our solar system every 3,600 years, which is what Zecharia Sitchin talked about later, after the fact. The ensuing verbal barrage and ridicule he received from these statements was unprecedented. The establishment laughed, and his own race of people laughed too. And some of the uninformed are still laughing. Now they want to receive the glory while they saddle him with the stigma. However, he was the one to get the last laugh because CNN and internet sources reported that they had, quote unquote, discovered an amazing galaxy that, oddly enough, had 3 suns, a tri-solar system, a heretofore unknown planetary configuration. Originally, they named the ship as Planet X, while others referred to it as Rilo 7, RYLO 7. So they have these different names that they called it then, Planet X, Rilo 7, but now they feel safe and comfortable enough to call it what the master originally called it, Nibiru. And while this discovery was released to the public on July the 13th and July the 14th of 2005, the information it seemed to become hard to find, and it seemed to disappear, at least when I looked for it. Now, I know a lot of people have a problem with Elijah Muhammad. No problem. Some say that the Nation of Islam early on was infiltrated by the U.S. government, and I understand that too, because they do infiltrate organizations, and they do they are desirous of co-opting organizations, and they want to basically turn everything into a one world, hive-minded Borg type society. But I also know that whether you like him or not, the physical vessel called his body produced some utterly unbelievable information during his time. He too talked about the fall of the U.S. dollar and the fall of America during a time when America was strong, and people thought such an idea was so left-wing and nutty as to be outside the realm of possibility. He was also on a U.S. UFO tip at that time, talking about strange things like a mothership that's not only inhabited, but outside of the Earth's atmosphere as well. And of course, he spoke about genetic engineering during a time before such ideas were even a part of our reality. Elijah Muhammad called it graftation. Graftation. And towards the end of an audio tape labeled, the name of the tape was The Tribe of Shabazz. In that audio tape, towards the end of the tape, he talked about in the Tribe of Shabazz, that tape, it should be available online. He talked about how the Bible and the Quran would basically have an expiration date and would soon give way to a higher knowledge, because if anybody believes that the Nation of Islam is the highest expression of knowledge, the quintessence of knowledge, then they're very sadly mistaken. And I hesitate, and I'd like to hastily add that this is not a slight against the Nation of Islam, because they have done some great things during the course of their existence. And yes, they have cleaned up a lot of black men, and yes, they have turned them away from drugs, and I think they deserve credit for that. However, their purpose was to clean the black woman and the black man up physically before moving to phase 2. You see, that was prep school. Now back to what he said on that tape, about 50 minutes into the tape. And this is interesting because most of his members don't even know he said it. In this section of the tape, he spoke of the coming of a great man with ancient knowledge. He said, and I'll paraphrase, but the coming of the just one that we are now getting acquainted with, he has knowledge of the very beginning and all of the history of the universe from their creation. And there is no end to his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Elijah also mentioned how this one world would have the history of the planet going back 25,000, 50,000, a million, a billion, or even a trillion years. He said that 75% of his work is with the woman. And that meshes perfectly with our topic of discussion today. The matriarchy. So as I survey the landscape, the cultural and historical landscape, one thing I cannot find is that anyone that most closely conforms to this description than Baba Yanun. I've also heard that, or though not researched myself from teachers like Bobby Hemmett and others, that the ancient Egyptians' prophecy about how Egypt would be resurrected in the West, maybe this is a part of the resurrection right now. Well, this was the same man that built those Egyptian pyramids down south in Atlanta. The same man that has been mercilessly defamed and slandered. In terms of book sources for this topic, by Baba Yan, one book is called Freaks and the Perfect Creature. Freaks and the Perfect Creature. It deals with biblical and historical proof of genetic engineering occurring today and in ancient times. Another book he wrote is called 18 plus 18 plus 1 equals 37 genes, mitochondrial DNA. It deals with the superiority of the female mitochondrial DNA, how this knowledge is embedded in everyday words, etc. There's another book he wrote called Genetic Kiss. Genetic Kiss explains how the matriarchy or female rule pre-existed male domination, as well as how females became slaves to males. It explains how when you sleep with someone, exactly how many people you actually sleep with. I think Lance has mentioned this before, and he called it soul ties.
Yes.
You're sleeping with a whole host of individuals. This book also talks about how the male chromosome has been maimed and defected. No slight to the brothers. I'm a brother myself. It also talks about the DNA blender experiment. And it also talks about the truth about Sodom and Gomorrah, because if you don't understand the languages in those scriptures, you're going to be lost. And here we have someone in this day and time that knows these languages that can decipher this information for us. Another book is called Intelligent Design, Divine Design, or Plot of Aliens. That deals with, among other things, a long list of ancient stories that the Bible and all Abrahamic religions were plagiarized from. The importance of keeping your genes pure and how to purify your genes, etc. There's another book called Panasad, The Harvest. The Harvest deals with the sometimes fatal consequences of mixing Rh negative and Rh positive blood types. It deals with breeding, genetics, eugenics, the DNA harvesting program that they have in place, like Ancestor.com, that type of thing, and why. And who you sleep with, and how who you sleep with becomes a part of your DNA for 7 to 10 years, etc. Another book he wrote is called The Planet Earth is Women. The Planet Earth is Women. That book explains how she lost her powers internally as the supreme matrix and the principal earth deity. Another work is called The Lotus of Life. The Lotus of Life, Part 1, because there's a Part 2. It deals with hermaphrodites. It deals with topics like, hermaphrodites, how the female and not the male is the recorder of the family genes or the family jewels, the properties of the female X and the male Y chromosomes, female mitochondrial DNA, and general proof of women existing on the planet first. Also in a book called The Akasha Records that he wrote covers this in detail. He also wrote The Death, Life, Wife, and Children of Jesus the Christ. May sound crazy to most that he had a wife, children, but if you go to the book of John chapter 2, it talks about how there was a wedding at Cana and how he had this special position at this wedding. And if you know anything about Jewish history or Jewish tradition, you'll know that that wedding was planned for him. But that's another topic. Another book he wrote is God, Male or Female. This talks about how she is genetically complete and how we all start as neuter gender, how hermaphrodites and homosexuals come about as well. He wrote another book called The Dog Book. The Dog Book that's an older book, shows how female and male reproductive organs are from the same source and how they correspond to each other. And more information on how homosexuality comes about. And then he wrote another book, actually a 2-part book. This book will be part 1 of the book called The Sacred Records of Atum Re. The Sacred Records of Atum Re. That's 455 pages of blowing information, or we call it information. And it deals with, it's also known as the Black Book. The Black Book, Part 1. And the Black Book Part 1 is basically, as well as Part 2, is a Q&A, a question and answer book. It deals with topics like the creation of life on planet Earth, cosmic information, genetics, mitochondrial DNA, all those questions that you never had answered in the Christian church or your religious schools, your organized religious schools. He also wrote a complete translation of the book, the Injil. That's Arabic it's Arabic name for the book of Revelations, about 900 plus pages. Gives you a breakdown of each chapter in the book of Revelations. Then I mentioned Leviathan 666, Volume 2, and the first edition, which was in 1971. And there's more information about the book of Daniel, Revelations, prophetic destruction of the Twin Towers, and there was even a 15th edition in 1979, I believe. And then, of course, I mentioned the classic Man from Planet Risk. Mentioned earlier when he spoke about a three-sun galaxy decades before they discovered it. It also deals in detail with cloning, teleportation, / the Philadelphia experiment, and how it affects us today. That experiment opened up a vortex in space and time. And that's discussed in Man from Planet Risk. There is a work written by him also. It's about Elijah Muhammad called I Will Send You Elijah. And all of these books are written by one man. And that's just a small sample of some of the books that he wrote. So with that information as a backdrop, we can get into the first thesis, my first thesis. Point number 1 would be evidence of a feminine world order in ancient times. Evidence of a feminine world order in ancient times. Now, to prove that women were the original planetary rulers, we have to examine what I call the footprints of female hegemony. You know, a female power, because the word hegemony relates to authority. And in order to do that, you have to trace, like forensic scientists, you know, they gather evidence from a crime scene. You have to trace these fingerprints, these footprints, or simply the cultural evidence. And you'll find that this information is everywhere. I mean, honestly, the whole world is littered with this evidence, and it comes from many different sources. So what does the evidence show? It shows that she had the powers of planetary governance, but it also shows that women had amazing powers over their internal physiology and could reproduce on their own without male spermatozoa. Now, this evidence comes from many sources, as I mentioned, be it historical, cultural, literary, etymological, anthropological, anatomical, many different sources. So before we look at the evidence, we should probably cover some of the definitions and words that you'll hear during the call, just to make sure that we're on the same page. First word, of course, would be matriarchy. Matriarchy. I talked to women about this word, and some know what the word means and some don't. So I guess a definition would be in order. Matriarchy, according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, could refer to a family, group, or state governed by a matriarch. Basically means that the mother is the head of the household. The second definition that the Merriam-Webster dictionary provides is a system of social organization where descent and inheritance are traced through the female line. And of course, you have another word called genocracy. Genocracy, with the prefix GYN, according to the definition, that is the government of women ruling men. You know, when you hear the word genocracy, it's the same as the root as the word gynecologist, which is spelled GYN, the first three letters, as well as the root word in the word misogyny. Misogyny, mis meaning against, gyn, women, against women, hatred of women. So all of these words relate to females. Gynecologist, female doctor. So basically, there was an old world order. And I'll get to what the old world order was in a minute. But one definition you probably would want to know would be the word matrilocal. Matrilocal relates to location. Specifically, the husband or the male lives with the wife's clan or family. And his domicile is basically, or home, is matrilocal. And then you have the word matrilineal. Matrilineal sounds like the word line is in that word, which it is. Matrilineal, it refers to how inheritance is passed down, or how descent and inheritance flows through the mother or the mother's line. The mother's line. Then, of course, you have the word patriarchy, which everybody knows what that is. You know, I call it a system of social organization that exalts men over women. A system of male domination, an imbalanced type of system. You have the word patrilocal. Patrilocal societies also relates to location. In this case, the woman or the wife is domiciled in the home of the husband's family or clan, because the word patrilocal has the same root as patriarchy, and the PATR stands for male. Just like matriarchy or matrilocal or matrilineal contains the word, the 4 words MATR, matrix, referring to the mother. So in patrilineal societies, the descent and inheritance is traced through the father or the father's line as opposed to the mother's. Patrilineal. Another word, everybody or many people may be familiar with Sumer, but some people are not, so I'll define it. Sumer refers to the Fertile Crescent area that you read about in school, if you even studied that in school, because I know that they're gutting the history books and not teaching much. It refers to the Fertile Crescent area or Mesopotamia, the land of Nineveh, Babylon, Assyria. So most people would know it by Iraq. Or if you know somebody from Assyria, then that's where they're from, that region of the world. Indus Valley. When someone refers to Indus Valley, of course, they're talking about Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kashmir, India, those types of places. And then, of course, we have to define what parthenogenesis is. Parthenogenesis is basically a composite of 2 words. Partheno, which means virgin, genesis, birth. Basically, virgin birth. And so definitions of the old world order, anytime we speak of the old world order, we will be speaking about other synonyms like antiquity, matriarchal times, prehistoric times, pre-patriarchal times, a time of pre-male rule. All of those refer to it, the old world order that was overturned, the order of the female or the feminine. And so one definition that applies to the old world order would be Paleolithic. Another word would be Pleistocene and Neolithic. And you hear these terms when they're talking about dinosaurs, but basically Paleolithic refers to Stone Age, because paleo is the word stone and lithic is age, so Stone Age. So according to him or them, this was over 30,000 years ago. And the word Pleistocene, Pleistocene, Pleistocene means most recent, or the time of the Ice Age as mankind records it. Then, of course, you have Neolithic times. Neolithic. Neo means new, like neocolonialism, new colonialism. Neolithic times means new age. That was at the time of the agricultural or the agrarian-based society, according to their history. According to his story, this Neolithic age or period was over 10,000 years ago, around 9,000 to 8,000 BCE. Long time ago. So again, don't get caught up in his dates, because mankind was not even created yet. topic for another. Then, of course, you have the advent or the emergence of what they call fratriarchy or fratriarchy. Fratriarchy, F-R-A-T-R-I-A-R-C-H-Y. Fratriarchy. That's when men made inroads against the matriarchy. And the word fratriarchy is related to the word fratricide. You've probably heard of the word fratricide, since, you know, it shares the same word as the word fraternity. Fraternity. The root would be F-R-A-T, frater. Frat or frater refers to brother. Fraternity is a brotherhood. Fratricide is brother killing brother, as in fratricidal wars between brother and brother, like the Civil War in America. So the fratriarchy is what their scientists define as a transitional period before the patriarchy fully emerged or male domination was set up. The time period when matriarchy started to change. So we have those time periods of the old world order, the Neolithic times, the Pleistocene, the Pleistocene times, the Paleolithic times. We have the emergence of the fratriarchy. Then we have what we call modern times, which, of course, in modern times, we have full-blown patriarchy. And patriarchy, of course, is a system of male domination, a system of male supremacy, from the root word pater, P-A-T-E-R. Pater means father, related to the root word in paternity test. As you know, the word paternity, as you see and hear about on, say, Maury Povich's show, when he says, "You are the father." See what we're doing for time here. How we doing for time, Brother Lance?
Oh, I got all the time in the world. Right now it's
okay, good. I'm looking okay. Let me just all right.
It's all on you, brother, time wise. You know, we can go as long as you need.
I'm gonna go a couple more minutes.
Okay. All right, I'm here with you. Mm-hmm.
So basically, now that we covered the meaning of these words, let's look at what I call the footprints of female hegemony. The footprints of female hegemony. H-E-G-E-M-O-N-Y, hegemony. It's related to the word hegemon. A hegemon, you might hear about these types of words in cartoons. You know, cartoons have one thing they do have is great vocabularies, and also in the comic books, which I was a comic book junkie when I was a kid or child. But hegemon is one that possesses hegemony. A hegemon is something with dominant influence or authority over others, a hegemon. So hegemony would mean influence, control, or a preponderance of influence or control. So hegemony would be influence, control, or a preponderance of influence or control. Example, the U.S. has global hegemony, global influence, global control. China is expected to be the hegemon of the future. Africa is also expected to be the hegemon of the future. Britain is a hegemon of the past. So we understand what the word hegemon is. So let's prove that females were the original hegemons or rulers on planet Earth. Let's examine first the cultural footprints, the cultural evidence. You know, the cultural remains or the remnants bearing witness to the existence of an ancient matriarchy. That's what we want to look at right now. So if you do your research, you'll find that there are numerous stories of serpent dragons being overthrown by a male deity or a male god. Numerous stories of these serpent-type dragons overthrown by a male deity or a male god. Example, you have the story of Apollo versus Python from Greek mythology. You have another Greek mythology story, Zeus versus Typhon, Typhon being a dragon or a reptile. You have the story of the god Beowulf from Europe, Beowulf versus the dragon. You have Hercules versus the Hydra. I mean, there's many, many stories about serpent dragons being overthrown by a male deity or a male god. So another example features an Aryan, which is European, an Aryan male deity named Indra, Indra. Indra. Indra is also said to have slain a dragon in the story of the stories written about Indra. So it is said in this story that when Indra killed the dragon, it was only then that the waters were disclosed to him in a torrential fashion. So when Indra killed the dragon, and I'll read the story in a minute, or a little bit of it, it was only then, after Indra killed the dragon, that the waters were disclosed to him in a torrential fashion. Torrential spelled Torrential. What does all that mean? Torrential. If the waters were disclosed in a torrential manner, it means those waters, whatever that is, was received in great quantity, copiously, abundantly, because the word torrential, the word torrent, is from the word torrent. The word torrential is from the word torrent, Torrent. And the word torrent, a torrent can refer to a flood, something in abundance, something present in great quantity. So it's often a reference to rain, like a torrential downpour, or torrential rain versus normal rain, or versus misting rain. And since this poem about this god Indra, this Aryan European god Indra, is speaking in parables, we know it is not speaking about water that Indra received after slaying the dragon. And since we know that the dragon represented the matriarchy or female rule, we know that. And since we already know that in antiquity, the planet was governed by She, the creator of civilization and holder of all secrets and knowledge. This disclosure, this quote-unquote disclosure to Indra, was more than mere water. It was knowledge, wisdom, information that he became privy to, knowledge in abundance that had never been disclosed to him. So why all the recurring serpent dragon themes in so many literary accounts? Because many earth cultures, they actually associated the mother goddess with the serpent. Why is that? That's your first question. The reason why they associated the mother deity or the mother goddess with the serpent is because serpents or snakes in those times represented immortality. And as they always transform, they're always shedding their skin. The goddess could also transform. She could start off as a spring virgin who eventually gives birth in the summer and the fall, transforms into a nurturing mother, and finally brings death during the fall and the winter as a crone, only to start the cycle all over again. So this is the reason why in the Aryan holy books, which you call them Hindus today, the Aryan holy books, this would explain why they hate black people so much. In the Aryan holy books, because they were influenced by outsiders. In the Aryan holy books, the Rig Vedas, Rigvedas, these are their holy books. In the Rig Vedas, the Aryan war god Indra, that's who he was. Indra was a war god, an Aryan war god that stormed down from the mountains into this Indus Valley. He's described as contending with and killing a great snake, serpent, or dragon. So this is a veiled reference to the mother goddess in a symbolic story of matriarchal overthrow. The story even references people called the stubborn holdouts, the indigenous people who pledged allegiance to the mother goddess, her loyal followers, her diehard devotees. Just like people follow Beyonce, just like people follow Donald Trump, or people follow Jesus Christ. The goddess of antiquity also had her crew, her own posse, if you want to call it that. And it was a global following, numbering in the millions. So they disrespectfully and disparagingly called those devoted to her in this poem as, quote unquote, she-fiends. It's about equivalent to calling somebody, a white person that likes blacks, as a nigger lover. They called her devotees as she-fiends. And this is written about in a book called The Untold Story of Western Civilization, Volume 1, Age of the Mothers, the Matriarchy, basically saying that they were female-worshipping fanatics. So let me read something to you from this book, page 86. The Untold Story of Western Civilization, Age of the Mothers, Volume 1, the Matriarchy. It says right here, the most cherished of the Aryan gods, Indra, was their war god and the god of rain and thunderstorms. He wielded a thunderbolt, his weapon. He was venerated, worshipped, as the god who led the Aryan raiding parties into battle. Going into battle, the men would invoke his assistance by pouring libations, being drunk, and aspiring to states of ecstatic frenzy. Indra gained his stripes as a war god in his first battle, in which he defeated the great serpent Vitra, the consort of the great goddess. With his muscular body and flowing white hair, Indra provides to this day the image of God the Father in the Western world. This is the image of God as immortalized in Michelangelo's ceiling on the Sistine Chapel in Rome. The praises of Indra are sung in the Rig Veda, the earliest of the Vedas, and constitute almost 25% of the hymns. Now let me go to page 87, what they say further about this god Indra. Let's see, it says here, hymn number, I can't read that, from the Rig Veda describes how Indra derived his power by killing the great serpent or dragon, Vitra, V-I-T-R-A. Vitra, or Vitra, the son of the great goddess, which at that time her name was Danu, D-A-N-U, Danu. In the myth, the water that Vitra or Vitra holds back is symbolic of the flow of knowledge possessed by the goddess. The word kine, K-I-N-E, the word kine means a herd of cows. The cows were originally the property of the goddess. They were also the cows of the indigenous people of India. We know who those people are, who the Aryans called dasas, or dark slaves. These slaves still worship the goddess. The indigenous Dravidian people who created one of the greatest agricultural civilizations on earth had a subtle appreciation of the nature of reality and worshipped divine consciousness in the form of the great goddess. In order to establish rule over the Dravidians, the Aryans had to defeat their goddess. In this hymn from the Rig Veda, we are told how this was accomplished. Let's see how this was accomplished. Let's see here. I'll read some of this poem. It's a long poem. It says here, I will declare, this is Indra talking, I will declare the manly deeds of Indra. Well, actually, this is one of someone talking about Indra. I will declare the deeds of Indra, the first that he achieved, the thunder wielder. He slew the dragon, then disclosed the waters, and cleft the channels of the mountain torrents. So these waters, of course, were the flow of knowledge possessed by the goddess. Let me go to the next page here. On that page, the people that are praising him, those people would be called his sycophants. You know, they're praising this god Indra. Everybody knows what a sycophant is. A sycophant was basically, I guess the dictionary definition would be a flatterer or a self-seeker, somebody who clings to people who are important, or they perceive as important. People with wealth, power, influence, those people that cling to them, those flatterers and self-seekers. Street terminology of a sycophant would be bootlicker, suck-up, brown-noser, flunky, ASS kisser. Those types of people would be sycophants. And these are the ones writing about the exploits of Indra. see here. First and last paragraph. All right. Says here, he had a mad, weak warrior challenged Indra. He's talking about Vitra, when Vitra challenged Indra. He, like a mad, weak warrior, challenged Indra, the great, impetuous, man-slaying hero, because Vedas is symbolic of the overthrow of the matriarchy. So they're pumping up Indra in these poems again. First and last three paragraphs. Hold on a second. Hold on. It says here, when Indra, thou hast slain the dragon's firstborn, referring to the son of the mother goddess, Vitra, thou hast slain the dragon's firstborn and overcome the charms of the enchanters. Then, giving life to sun and dawn in heaven, thou found not one foe to stand against thee. Indra, with his own great and deadly thunder, he smote into pieces Vitra, the worst of Vitras, as trunks of trees. What time the axe felled them low on the earth, so lies the prostrate dragon. So the dragon, the son of the great mother goddess, was on the ground and dismembered in pieces. Let's see what else it says here. All right, I'm going to read a little bit more. Bottom of page 89, second paragraph. Okay, this is on page 89 of the same book. It says here, among all the tribes of Aryans, we find a mythic battle ending with the slaying of a serpent dragon, which I just read, on the part of a male deity. This is the central myth constructed to symbolize the death of matriarchy, represented by the serpent, and the victory of patriarchy, which is represented by a male god. This transition is mythologized in Greek in the following conflicts, and I think I mentioned some of these: Zeus versus Typhon, Cronus versus Ophion, Apollo versus Python, Heracles versus Hydra, Ladon, Perseus versus Ceto, Bellephoron versus the Chimera. And then towards the end of the bottom of the page, page 89, it says here, this central myth symbolized a clash between the patriarchal forces of order against chaos, represented by the serpent, and invariably the god or hero would win. So they would always win, basically, in these poems. As the Aryans moved into the Indus Valley, because again, they were invaders, invading this peaceful civilization. As the invaders moved into the Indus Valley, we find hymns to Indra that not only exalt him for the destruction of the matriarchy, but also for the destruction of the indigenous people who still worship the goddess. This is what it says. With sacrifice, I purge. When you purge something, you empty it out. With sacrifice, I purge both earth and heaven. I burn up great she-fiends who serve not Indra. So they're talking about what they'll do for Indra and how they kill for Indra. Were they throttled, you know the word throttle, Throttled. I don't know how clearly you guys can hear me, so I'm spelling the word out.
Yeah, we loud and clear, brother.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Where throttled by thy hand, the foes were slaughtered, and in the pit of death lay pierced and mangled. So basically what they're saying is, these are Indra's sycophants sucking up to him, saying that I kill for Indra, and what they are saying is, I purge the earth, as I mentioned before. And they're also saying, you know, we are those who choked, or killed, or slaughtered, or throttled. It's talking about the foes of Indra. And, you know, when you throttle something, of course, throttle has different definitions. A throttle is, you know, it's related to the word throat, because if you look at the first 4 letters of the word throttle, it's T-H-R-O-T, throt. And if you look up the definition, throttle means to choke or to kill by choking. It also means to defeat easily or completely. And of course, you have a valve in your car or valves in your car. It's called, an engine has a throttle, you know, and that throttle regulates or chokes the amount of fluid into the engine of your car. And so that's basically what it means. Okay, let's see where I am here. Okay, I want to read this also. The worship of Indra clearly demonstrates that the motivation of the Aryan patriarchal tribes was not to gain spiritual insight, but simply to conquer others in battle in order to steal their cattle and wealth and enslave them for work, as seen in this hymn. So basically, they were, let me turn my phone off here. So basically, hold on a second. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So this war was basically for stealing the wealth of the goddess. It says here in the poem, easy to turn and drive away, Indra is spoiled bestowed by thee. Easy to turn and drive away, Indra is spoiled bestowed by thee. Basically, Indra was good at turning away and driving his foes away so that they can get to the wealth of the goddess. Unstable, it says here, unclose, they're talking to Indra now, unclose the stable of the kine. Open up the stables so we can get the cattle. Unclose the stable of the kine and give us wealth, O thunder armed. Give us the wealth, Indra. We follow you, and we want to, steal this. The wealth during that day was in cattle, and that they were after spoils. The spoils of war would be the cattle, or part of it. The heaven and earth contain thee not. He's too big for the heaven and the earth. He's larger than life. Together in thy wrathful mood, win us the waters of the sky and send us kine abundantly. They're not talking about spiritual uplift. They're talking about stealing. It says here, his arms win kine. His arms, his brute force is able to win the spoils of war, which in this case is kine. His arm yields the booty, basically. He's a warmongering. His warmongering basically yields booty in the form of cows, which was, as I mentioned, the wealth of that time, because wealth can be denominated in many different forms. Some people denominate their wealth in cow manure. Some people denominated their wealth in terms of hemp, which was a cash crop at one time in America, as an example. Okay, so it says here, his arms win kine. His power is boundless, in each act best. Again, his sycophants sucking him up, boosting him up. With 100 helps, waker of battle's din. Waker, W-A-K-E-R, waker of battle's din. Of course, when you're talking about a din, you're talking about loud, continuous noise. And in this case, they're referring to the battle's din, or the loud, continuous noise of battle. But he's the waker of battle's din. So a waker is like a person at a wake. You know, after they're standing over the body of the deceased after a battle, after the battle din, after the battle noise has subsided, referring to a killing field, basically, or a slaughter. So after a waker of battle's din is Indra. None may rival him in mighty strength. Hence, eager for the spoil, the people call on him. That's why they followed him, because he was a mighty warrior and a cutthroat and a killer. Okay, what else do I want to read from this book? Let's see. 90. Hold on just a second. Page 90. All right. On page 90, it says this. In Aryan society, the cattle raids were raised to the status of a sacred act. Rituals were created to invoke the assistance of Indra. This was their deity or their god they prayed to. In these rituals, the Aryan warriors became one with the gods by pouring libations, getting intoxicated, and working themselves up into a war frenzy. In such a state of mind, murder and plunder of their neighbors was justified and honored as fulfilling the desires of the gods. Whether the drink was mead, wine, or soma, its power resided in its capacity to increase the fighting spirit among the priests and the warriors, and we might surmise in its power to dull the senses to the slaughter that they would soon perpetrate. So that's what I wanted to read to you from The Age of the Mothers, the Matriarchy, the Untold Story of Western Civilization, Part 1. You guys still with me there?
Loud and clear, my brother.
All right. I'm going to try to finish up here. We got a little time. There's a Chinese work everybody's familiar with called I'm not Chinese, so I may not pronounce it correctly. The Tao Te Ching. It's spelled T-A-O. Next word T-E, Ching. Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching. It speaks of a time when the yin, which would represent the wisdom of the mother. They said that there was a time when the yin was honored above the masculine yang. The yang is masculine. Today, of course, in this male-worshipping society, the yang principle is now dominant. Now, when the archaeologists started digging, they found the primacy of the goddess. They found that she was the focal point of the people's existence. And rightly so, because she was the personification of the terrestrial and very feminine earth, because she's always feeding, nurturing and providing for earth inhabitants, always pregnant with new life. So in many ways, she's just like the planet Earth. So they found numerous goddess paintings, pictures, sculptures, plaster reliefs, clay figurines. They found terracotta figurines with extremely curvy and voluptuous black women bodies. Of course, they had the standard black woman equipment: large buttocks, large breasts, peppercorn hair, like you see on those Buddha statues. Chinese don't have peppercorn hair. That's your hair. And even afros. And they called them the Venus figurines or the statues. If you go on that picture website called Pinterest, you'll see all types. Something else I want to read from the Untold Story of Western Civilization, page 9. Let me see here. Page 9. It says here, the people that wrote this book, they say that this should in no way be considered a slight to people of other civilization or races, for in their stories of human history, we find, as a general rule, a more humane and spiritually orientated lifestyle. In the Far East, the people knew about the one God millennia, or 1,000 years before it was discovered in the West. Time of Shiva, it grew into the social consciousness of the people of India and was refreshed by Lord Krishna and Lord Buddha. What I really want to get to is this. It says here on page 9, when Europe was going through its dark ages, the empires of Africa were going through a continental renaissance. The leading civilizations of this African rebirth were the Aksum Empire, the Kingdom of Ghana, the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Ethiopian Empire, the Mosai Kingdoms, and the Benin Empire. Historians and archaeologists have been remiss in putting together this grand story, focusing only instead on Egypt and Nubia, which were largely part of the Western and Middle East, part of the history of the Middle East, and thus participants in the development of Western civilization. It says here, we can never forget that the birth of humanity occurred in Africa. The African people are our most...
Okay, got to get him back on the line. Hold tight, everybody. We're going to call him back. He just might be calling me. Just give me a little while. These things do happen. So sorry. Yes. Loud and clear. You're right back on. I just put a little music on and we're here waiting for you, brother. Thank you.
Where they cut me off at?
Well, it was just like, oh God, what were you saying? It was so, you had my mind so deep in thought. It was only like about maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes ago. But what
All right, I'll start over.
Yeah. To tell you the exact point, I was still digesting what you said like 3 minutes before. So anyway, Go ahead, brother. We're here.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm back. I'll just go back to what I was reading. Okay, it says here, this should in no way be considered a slight to people of other civilizations or races, for in their stories of human history, we find, as a general rule, a more humane and spiritually oriented lifestyle. Then towards the bottom it says here, when Europe was going through its dark ages, the empires of Africa were going through a continental renaissance. The leading civilizations of this African rebirth were the Aksum Empire, the Kingdom of Ghana, the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Ethiopian Empire, the Masi Kingdoms, and the Benin Empire. Historians and archaeologists have been remiss in putting together this grand story, focusing instead only on Egypt and Nubia, which were largely part of the history of the Middle East and thus participants in the development of Western civilization. We must never forget that the birth of humanity occurred in Africa. The African people are our most ancient ancestors and are worthy of our greatest respect. We would still be dragging our knuckles on the ground if it were not for our African ancestors. We have much to learn from the African people about what it means to be a human being. And that's an enlightened white boy saying something like that. Let me see something else. There's a lot of jewels in this book. Let me go to another page real quick. 27. It says here, the idea of the great goddess arose from African tribes and thus was a black female divinity. In her book, Urugu, an African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior, Marimba, the author of the book, Marimba Ani, A-N-I, Marimba Ani tells us, in the ancient religious traditions of Africa and other parts of the world, we find again the predominance of the mother goddess, the valorization of the female principle, the earth symbol. These traditions were well developed before it was possible to speak of a Western or Western European peoples. During the golden age of matriarchy, women moved freely as warriors, traders, ambassadors, and priestesses. In their role as priestesses, they evolved the knowledge of the natural cycles, including the lunar and solar calendars. They attributed control of these cycles to the great goddess who changed her form according to the seasons. In the spring, she was the virgin. In the summer and fall, the mother. In the late fall and winter, the crone. I think I mentioned that. So that's what I wanted to read from there. And let me see if there's anything else. Good book to have, though. One other thing I wanted to read says here, page 22. In order to progress as individuals and as a human society, we must now begin to break down this myth. To do so, it is necessary to know that there was a time in human history when women governed human society and God was a woman, more precisely a black woman. While this story contradicts all the myths of patriarchal society, nonetheless, it is true. Let us now explore what recent discoveries have taught us about the roles of men and women during the development of Western civilization. And that's pretty much what I wanted to read from that book. So basically, in a bygone era, females were properly recognized as the embodiment of physical nature, the physical portals through which all life travels to arrive here as the supreme deity, as providers, nurturers of all life, as masters of wisdom and holders of knowledge. Female deities were often depicted holding a double axe. The double axe was symbolic of the abundant bounty of the earth. So the double axe also represented the transformative powers of the butterfly. You mentioned your wife had a butterfly on her toe or something the other day.
Yes, the butterfly just came down right to her foot. She picked it up and stayed right there, and it was just, I got it on videotape. I'm going to put it up soon. But go ahead, brother. Wow. It was amazing.
Well, the butterfly represents transformation because it changes from a caterpillar into a flying artistic masterpiece. So look at something else. Look at Native American culture. When the Christian settlers encountered them, they were amazed and they laughed at them because they were ruled by female governors called governesses. And these women elected all of their tribal chiefs. They said, and I'll quote or I'll paraphrase, of course we follow the women because they are our mothers. And of course, in Egypt, you had a full pantheon of powerful female goddesses. You had, of course, Isis, you had Hathor, you had Sekhemtet, you had Nut or Nut, Ma'at, and others. You know, Isis was called the inventor of agriculture, for example. Go to Mesopotamia, you had the same thing. You had Ninlil, the wife of Enlil, and they were taught that, they said that she was the one who taught her people to farm. Inanna, spelled I-N-A-N-N-A, she was called the creatress, or the mighty lady. There was a Sumerian prayer to her. It went as follows, if I remember it correctly. Hear, O you regions, the praise of Queen Nana. Magnify the creatress, not creator, masculine, but creatress, feminine. Magnify the creatress, exalt the dignified, exalt the glorious one, draw nigh unto the mighty lady. So that was in that part of the world, in Mesopotamia. They also had in Mesopotamia Mother Namu, or Mother Namu, N-A-M-M-U. They called her goddess mother. She was the goddess mother who gave birth to heaven and earth. And then, of course, you had Astarte. Hello? We good?
Yeah, we good, brother.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We had Astarte, we had Lilith, you had Ishtar, you had Cybele of Rome, you had Demeter and Hera of Greece. You had many different names. So in that same Mesopotamian region, they found bronze temple coins. They were known as Sumerian shekels, the same word used for money in the Old Testament. Just a very, very small proof that the entire Old Testament is plagiarized and not divinely inspired, by the way. Anyway, these Sumerian shekels dated back from 3200 BC. And they have the image of the goddess, not of a god, but of a goddess previously mentioned. The goddess Inanna Ishtar was on those coins. So Inanna is depicted wearing cow horns, you know, because in ancient times, the cow horn symbolized the great earth mother. And this symbology was repeated in other lands. Like India is a case in point where you have a sacred cow goddess named Kali. That's one of the reasons why they worship the cow today. Just like in Egypt, you had Isis and Hathor, who symbolized abundance, fertility, and love. And over time, all the female figurines were quietly removed out of public view. And over time, the female deity was not only demoted, but she was transformed into a patroness of war. And the barbarian male figurines or statues, they received an automatic promotion. So she's demoted, he's promoted. The ancient records say, she gave us the gifts of civilizations. These femi-heroes, as I call them, the femi-heroes, created all technologies, both material and non-material. Whether it's clothing, drama, smithing, woodworking, government, law, food, they created all that. Metallic manufacturing, town planning, art, in short, everything. So it's funny how the destruction of the female rule was referenced in a book It's a communist book that was promoting that bankrupt political ploy that they call communism. Named the name of the book was The Origin of Private Property, the Family, and the State. The Origin of Private Property, the Family, and the State. And they said in that work that they talked about, it's a very strange passage in that book. It said that the world historical defeat of the female sex, that phrase alone stood out. It talked about the world historical defeat of the female sex, proving that at some remote time in antiquity, women were in charge of planetary affairs. So think about it. Why would you have to defeat someone who, unless they are in a position of power? Also, if it's a world defeat, then she was in charge of everything. And time-wise, we're doing, this is about the good time for me to be done with this particular section. As I mentioned, this will be in sections. Mm-hmm. The first section obviously deals with, the information about women being the rulers of the planet and how they were reproducing before men, how they were the original planetary stewards. And then, of course, the second part would deal with exactly how women lost their powers. And the third part, the reason, my personal motivations for writing it or, coming up with this topic in the first place. But we'll finish or continue on with point number one. The world of yesterday was a feminine world order where women reproduced on their own. And we're going to talk in detail about that. So with that said, this is just kind of a warm up, but the information that follows is even more interesting than this.
Yes.
But this information is what children need to know. I never learned this and if they learned this information, maybe we wouldn't have so much, we definitely wouldn't have as much male bigotry. We wouldn't have this divide between the sexes. That would be, it would be a moot issue. But I hope the audience enjoyed the information I provided. I hope time-wise, I think I'm making a good decision to keep my talks relatively short. That way it's more digestible and it's easier for people that don't know about me to click on the topic and then listen to the entire transmission in its entirety.
Yes.
And plus it's early in the day, so during the day they'll see that it's out. So that's good. I hope this resonates with people and just a small part of the vast sea of information out there on the matriarch. It's out there. Most women never learn about it. That's a shame.
It is.
Yeah. How many people online right now?
We have actually 205 and 14 on Facebook, I think.
Wow.
You never really know, but we have 2005 on
True.
On YouTube, but you just never know because my numbers are always cut and slashed and so we just keep on swinging. I don't care how long it takes to chop the tree down. I'm just going to keep axing it until it falls. So
exactly.
Things. You keep coming forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just outwork. I compete with no one, just myself, and I outwork myself and keep swinging and nothing outside affects. So they can play with the numbers all they want.
That's what we all have to do. We all have to keep on pushing and keep on moving and just worry about what you're supposed to do you're on this planet for a reason, so you have to figure out what that is, and everybody can find that out. It's just, you just have to find your purpose.
Right, exactly.
And you'll know your purpose. You'll know. So I have a purpose. You have a purpose. Right. We all have a purpose.
And they all complement each other. That's the beautiful part about it. They all complement each other. If we work in unity and ego-free, we're an unstoppable force. And that's what it's about.
That's right. That's right. But if you look at this transmission online right now, how many minutes is it? How long is it?
It's been 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 23 seconds.
Perfect. That's how long I want my talks to be.
Beautiful.
That's perfect for me. Perfect. Yeah. So I know you're going to have a busy rest of your day.
Well, I'm going to go with the flow. It'll be productive, but I'll take the word busy out because it gives me like makes me feel like I'm in a traffic jam. I'm always flowing. You know what I mean? If I happen, it's just like when me and Brother Kwaku took a little run out. We had to do something yesterday, and he started talking intensely, and I whipped out the phone and I started recording him. Then I put it up. Even before I got home, I had it up online. So That was unexpected, but I flowed with it. So everything that goes on, there's no pressure, no stress, no cramping. I flow. I might get in the middle of the night to use the restroom and say, hey, let me go live. You never know. It's just a constant pressing of, never letting up.
I tried to get on Friday night. That's a great time to get on, but I couldn't.
Oh, really?
I know Friday night is probably hot, right?
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying we're trying to establish a momentum where we get on every night. I'm going to try to hold it down to a certain time, but it's give or take because, like I said, I can't even reveal all the things that I'm doing, not to be or try to sound important, but, there are folks out here who don't have my best interest in hand, so you can't really put it out there all the way.
Of course not.
But, yeah, it's intense and everything's flowing and the way is clear. And in a great position right now, and I'm very happy about that. So,
good.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the advice you gave me earlier. Good information. Definitely take that to heart.
I'll always share that with you, brother. I want to see you rise. You know what I mean? And I don't want to see you take 10 years of mistakes on social media or not know what to do. I don't know everything, but I've been out here hands-on since 2001. So
yeah, you've been out there, yeah.
I've seen the whole internet change, and it's going to change some more. And what it is now is going to be something different. So you have to anticipate what's coming. And you have all the tools, man, the talent, the voice, the research, the intelligence, the intensity, the mission statement and purpose. You have it all. So I want everybody to, anytime they see Brother Zamal Temare's work, his name, anything, support him, because you're the real thing. You have saved us not just hours, but years of research, and you still reference the things that the books that you have and everything, and we can still go back and research it. But like I said, you're like that favorite teacher that we love, and you may not be around, but then you come in as a substitute sometimes and say, wow, we got the best teacher here. So yeah, it's always a pleasure, brother.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I really do. But I feel I liken myself unto Robin Hood. Robin Hood stole from the rich and he gave to the poor. Me, I like to take the information and give it to the people because in disseminating the information on a mass scale, you basically empower yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're empowering yourself. You're not monopolizing the information, which is the template that this society has used to get to the point that they're at right now. Mm-hmm. Everything is monopolized. They monopolize the damn gas company where you have to go through them to get your gas. They monopolize the electricity, and you have to go through them to get your electricity. Basically, it's to foster dependence on them.
But they don't want you to have a direct relationship with nature and the creator. That's what it is. And if you were to go off the grid using those examples, they don't like that. You have to be hooked up to electricity. You have to be hooked. Why do I have to pay you for something that comes so natural? And even with the books and going to the library, what you've done and researching, that's free. You see, we go to the colleges so that they can assign us a curriculum so that we can get to a certain point and they can say, okay, you learn this. But did they really learn that? Did they just go through the motions of, quotology or spit back at you what you want me to say on a test? And I will ordain you as somebody who has a degree. But what if you just study because you love it and you know it? The best mechanics never went to a school. The best painters never, you know what I mean? So it's a passion and desire.
Yeah.
School was boring to me when I was in high school. I didn't like it.
Me too. Me too. I hated it.
I went to the High School of Art and Design. You would have think I loved it. No, they were pushing on me. Oh, well, the great founding fathers in the Renaissance period and all. I don't want to hear all that stuff. How does this relate to me?
Me neither.
I didn't like it. But now I'm doing my own thing with my own people. The passion is there, but I never really had a passion. I never stopped learning. You know what I mean? So it's got to relate to me. So anybody out there who has a child or they want to know, like, okay, do things that relate to you that you like, and there's nobody that has to justify. You don't need anybody's approval to say, well, I didn't go to this college, I didn't go to school. There's nobody in college who can match my intensity every day, day in and day out. I'm not saying there's a challenge. I'm not knocking anybody there, but that's to show you. There was a journalist that walked up to me at a function one time, and she worked at a local newspaper, and it was a sister, and I respect her, but she had her nose up in the air, and everybody around was like saying, you need to go meet LANCESCURV. There he is over there. And she's like, well, who's LANCESCURV? And I understand that because I don't run those circles, right? So she came over to me in a very condescending way, and she said, they say your name is LANCESCURV. What periodical do you work for? Where are you in media? But the way she said it,
she wants to pigeonhole you professionally.
Right.
And if you don't fit into that certain pigeonhole, then you don't exist.
Exactly. So she gave me the looks and everything up and down. I had my bag, my camera in one hand. So it was obvious I did something. So she was, dolled up. She looked nice and everything like that. But the way she approached me, but I don't have the ego to want to challenge whatever. I said, well, listen, I'm just a guy who has a hobby that went haywire. I said, I never went to school for this. I never, and when she asked me the different things that I do, and then she said, well, do you have a website? Do you have a social media presence? And then she went, and then her eyes dropped out like, you've been doing this for long. She didn't say it. She would never say it. And I was asking, I said, well, where do you work? And she told me the local newspaper. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so I asked her, I said, well, let's follow each other on Twitter. Let's follow each other. And she's like, you got so many followers here. And I said, no, there are people who get down with me. I'm not some Jim Jones, I want to get attention type. You follow me, I know everything. We all get down. We all break bread at this table. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she learned a lot from that brief, but she didn't like it. She didn't like it. So she went over to the white guys who were in media. They were peeping over at me and looking. I mean, what is all that for? Do your work for the people. Yes. Let me tell you one short thing for 90 seconds. I've told it before. There was a church service going on, and it was in the summertime, and people were drawing the AC, and it was at nighttime coming up, and the lights went out. And the pastor said, oh man, the lights went out. Who are we going to have put it on? Nobody said Jesus though, right? So is there an electrician in the house? You know what I mean? And one guy jumped up and he said, yes, I'm the electrician and I can find my way. He used his the light on the cell phone and went to the back and fiddled with the wires and nothing came on. Fiddled with the wires and nothing came on. It was getting hot in there. The AC was off. The lights were off. People started standing up, fanning their face, wanted to go. So he sat down and he's like, I don't know. It's evident that he didn't know his electrical work and he wasn't the electrician that he thought he was.
He didn't know.
Then there was an old man who got up, shaking and had a cane and could hardly stand up. And he said, well, maybe I can help. And people were like, this guy, he can hardly stand up. He's old. He can hardly see. So somebody held a flashlight for him, and he went in the back, and all of a sudden, boom, lights came on, AC came on, and he came out.
He knew what he
He knew exactly what he was doing. And so what he did was when he walked up, and he said, man, what's your name? You got the lights on. And somebody said, well, don't worry about his name. You know who he is? He said, who? He's the electrician. See, so sometimes many of us will pump ourselves up for a position that we can't fill, or we use external validations that really they're not really validations. It's just you worked your way into that position, and then we have the people on the ground who just do what they do, and they do what they do good. You go to the city and you see all these beautiful murals up on the wall painted. Who painted these things? These are works of art. It might be a young kid or an old man or whatever, somebody you just don't think. I have a passion for what I do. I don't have to go around, please follow. No, I just do it. And who wants to come and get down? Who wants to get mad and unsubscribe and run and, talk bad about whatever? I'm not going to stop doing what I'm going to keep throwing punches. The knockout will come. I'm not looking for it, though.
Yes.
The knockout don't come out win on points. If I keep hitting you, you're going to fall. Day in, day out, day in, day until you get sick of it. I compete with no one. It's my thing. It's what I'm put here to do, and I'm built for this. Yeah. You see what I mean? So,
I compete with myself.
Right. Yeah. And so you understand the mentality, not just because you're a bodybuilder or you know about the training and the struggles in that and eating correctly and whatever have you, but that's just how you are. What you do in this particular lane compliments me. So I would never come against you. But you have the sincere, ego-free way. I just want to be that guy to get the information out. You never once said to me, well, Lance, what program can I use to make my face look better? And so on. So, you never said that. You just operate in the way you do. You came, you've been listening for a while. You're part of the family and were part of the family before I even knew, because you were listening. But it's sincere. Like, okay, my face is out there. That's the way I did it. I'm the guinea pig. I'll be the symbolic Jesus Christ that you come to come and knock when the government comes. Oh, they got Lance now, right? Okay, but there's a whole lot of us out here who do the same thing. You know what I mean? I don't mind. Nobody has to tell me their real name. If I know it, I know it, but I'm never going to reveal it. They can do what they want. My thing is also getting the information out, but I'm going to cook it up in a way where it's entertaining. We may have you on one day, we may have Sister Miko on the next day, expressing herself in the unique way she does, make you laugh and all that stuff. So we keep it going. I may not be able to sleep one night and stay up and talk. I'll talk to everybody. So that's what we do. Keep it rolling.
Oh,
keep
one
punching.
thing I wanted to add, I forgot. There's a bunch of people might ask, where can they get some of those books? there's a list of bookstores. I mean, I don't know who's listening today, but we have stores in Barbados, Canada, Jamaica, Trinidad, DC, Detroit, South Carolina, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Athens, Georgia, Connecticut, Chicago, Boston, Savannah. I know for a fact Chicago needs some support because this thing is, all these stores are like jewels in the neighborhood, and people don't even realize what they have in their neighborhood. Chicago store, I'll give you the number for the Chicago store. And they have a lot of those books too. 773-768-9042. And I'll send you the link for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of places where they can get these books.
Beautiful. Because books,
Mm-hmm.
are the best thing to hold on to, have a relationship with, have your hand on it, give a little coffee spill in it or whatever have you, but a book will never crash like a website would.
Yes,
a book will never go down. You can always read it by daylight and read it by candlelight. It's very important to have books. It's a different thing. Okay, the blue light computer, I've heard that there were some studies that say if you read the same thing on a computer and take the same thing from a book in a test, the person who, if you have all things equal as far as comprehension and those things are concerned, you'll absorb more from that book. You have no blue light to not. But okay, those of us who do, we usually research, but better with a book, y'all.
Nothing better than a book. That's
right.
why this information would be I would put it in a book form for posterity's sake.
Yes.
I'm not trying to get famous. I don't want to be famous.
Brother, but you're well loved though. You're well loved, and fame is one thing that I throw away. But you are well respected and well loved, and that's a tough thing to have out here when you have a bunch of naysayers that'll run around and try to, their job is to kind of smear you, but not yet, but it will come. But you have that kind of stature that you won't get that. Yeah, but you're not going to get that. I've said a lot of crazy things out there, so people are cussing me out for things I did like 12 years ago, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? But you're dropping facts. How are you going to argue about facts? You're dropping the facts.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to send you the link for that bookstore.
Right, and I'll drop it in the bottom of this video here.
Cool. But I'm going to get on off of here and do what I got to do.
Yes, my brother. Thank you.
But I appreciate it again, Lance, and I appreciate the audience. I hope you guys enjoy what I have to talk about today, and
of course.
Just wait till I give you the rest.
Right. Oh yeah.
Just wait.
And I'm here with you like a fireman. Like we spoke a little earlier. Said, hey, you got time? I said, hey, let's roll, and we did it. We did it again. Right.
I'm glad we got the way too. That's great. So the whole day to listen to it. They got no excuse.
That's right. It's here, and it's going to be up processed in a little while, right up on YouTube forevermore. So,
All right, brother. I'll
thank
be
you.
in touch with you this weekend.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll definitely be back later on with a couple more shows. I'm just going to do a few things, and like I said, leave your comments. Let him know how you appreciate him in the actual comment section after this video is done. We have the live comments up, but drop a comment. Just let him know that you're here. If there's any topics that you want Brother Zamal Temeré to speak on, and we have so much more to come. Just let me know. Whatever I'm doing, I will stop it. If I'm eating the best dinner and you call and say, let's go, I'm going to leave it and let it get cold. Let the flies get it. We got to do this.
They got to eat too.
Right. And they won't bother me when I'm doing the show. Right.
I just sent the email to you.
All right, brother. I'll doctor that up in a little while. Yes.
Okay. Now you have a nice day then.
All right. You too, my brother. Thank you. Peace.
All right. Peace.
I lost my love. They're gonna move to the groove. Out of my loaded. I lost my love. They're gonna move to the groove. Out of my loaded. I lost my love. Lost my love. They're gonna move to the groove. Out of my loaded. I lost my love.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody's in fear, though.
That's what I'm saying. So it's strictly a place of fear that we're operating from. And the fact is that we're not gonna get out of that place. And even sometimes when I speak, and some people will look at me and say, man, you gotta be careful of what you say. And I tell people, please do not tell me to be careful in what I have to say. I am not afraid to speak. I am not afraid because, look, I am here to do work. The fact is that when I go to my job, I don't just stand there and look at my job and hoping that it get done in some other way. So the job that I'm here to do, I am doing. I don't want anybody to sit and say, oh man, I'm worried about this. Don't worry about me. I don't want people to go around and worry, when is white supremacy going to get him? These are the things that they want you to think. These are the places that they want to put you in.
Paralyzes.
See what I'm saying is, that's why we don't do nothing. We see our sisters being beaten down in the street as strong black and videotape it. And what happened after that? You see what I'm saying? We see these things and yet we are paralyzed by them. But the fact is that here's where the danger comes in. The danger comes in because I will look at you, okay? I'll give you a scenario. Here's a white guy over here. He's got a lot of food, even food that he's just wasting. And you have a gun, but you ain't going over there to rob him. But here is it that me or you who live right next to him, who hardly can find enough to eat and feed the family, that's who he's coming to kill. So what does that say to you now? You see, this is so much self-hate. It is so much self-hate that is within you or me that is going to destroy the other person who look like you or me. And the food, all the food is over there. But you won't cross that line to go and get the food that you need. You're gonna cross the line to take away what this other person hardly even have. Because you hate yourself so much that you figure if you destroy yourself, then it's good for the, you know, I don't have to worry about this God that's living over there because the God ain't gonna give me no food. And if you don't volunteer to give me no food, I'm not gonna go over there to take it. That's what I'm saying. So that's the place that we live. That's the place that we live. And so we have to stop feeding into this narrative where we are living in such fear that when a brother starts to speak truth to power, we're ready to say, oh man, hush, hush, hush. I don't want the prisoner to come in and get you next or to get me. So be quiet, you know, see, just don't say anything. Be careful what you say. And that's where we live. That's a very dangerous place to live. It is. But the fact is that we can't see that because we're so caught up. We're so caught up and we are hoping. We are hoping that we just wake up one day and everything magically change. And that is the thing where all of our people, a great deal of our people, is waiting for this magical person to come out of the sky and fix everything for them. That's what I'm saying. It is no magical person that is going to fix it for you. When you have a problem in your house, you must be the one to fix it. You see, what I'm saying is, I'm dealing from a place of logic. I'm not dealing from a place of imagination. Because a lot of us, we're dealing from a place of imagination. And that's where the problem comes in.
Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated Why are we in this condition? Stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion. Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly that before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China, he took silk and gunpowder. From India, he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast, he took barrels of oil untold, raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So, my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and firewater. Tricks and lies, he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven, black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak. He needed you, black man, so he commissioned Sir John Hawkins to commit the world's most grievous sin, to take a man who's born to be free and bring him down to slavery, to sell a man as merchandise, on his body put a price. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.